Toxic stands as the most acclaimed song of Britney Spears' career. It's a definitive song that showcases all the best qualities about Britney Spears. Throughout her career, she's never exactly been taken seriously as an artist in comparison to some of her contemporaries. And although pulling from the likes of Janet and Madonna, she never exactly took the artistic risks they did. Openly talking about AIDS, illiteracy, and a deceased relative is not something to expect from a Britney Spears album. Artistically, she's a bit more reminiscent of Paula Abdul. Not exactly Paula's career trajectory, but more so Britney is a dance-driven artist that remains faithful to more carefree dance pop, that doesn't stray away into heavier topics for the most part. After her first 3 albums, Britney had established herself as one of the most effective singles artists of her time. Some songs were immensely catchy, some well produced, and most were both, but she had never really had a song at that point in time that completely pushed her into more innovative territory as an artist. Toxic got it completely right. It's as innovative as it is catchy as it is quality. It's a well-versed and timeless pop song that packs punch with a smoky performance from Ms. Spears. Yet the album that houses Toxic doesn't have one song that is as daring as the standout track. Sure, it has some other good tracks like her most noteworthy ballad, Every Time, or her ode to masturbation with the techno-driven Touch of My Hand, or even the minimalist Showdown, but none of the tracks are as ambitious as Toxic, and by the end of the record, it falters off. So what do you get when you have a Britney Spears album where most of the tracks are at least half or just as daring as Toxic? 2007's Blackout. Blackout was Britney's full assimilation into unapologetic adulthood. Released at the darkest period in her life, she similarly adopted a dark image and sound. Blackout would be released a few years after Spears went on the radio and let fans know her now lost album The Original Doll would be coming soon. Her label immediately shut it down and denied that there were any plans to release an album, and the single she previewed, titled Mona Lisa, that talks about an unforgettable woman who has been cloned, was regulated to the back end of a reality TV show soundtrack. For her then upcoming record, Britney stated she had hoped to reinvent the pop music scene because it was so boring. The cultivation of this album came at a time that couldn't be worse for Britney. A failed reality TV show, 2 children, a divorce, a famous umbrella lunging night, and an increasing profile amongst the tabloids. Meanwhile, the producers of Blackout wanted to top Toxic and push her to the next level. While it's debatable if they did top Toxic, it seems obsolete to not agree that Blackout is Spears' most thorough album. It was an off-putting album from pop's Nice Girl. It is one of the defining albums of Thousands Pop, and it was also a considerable flop upon its release. An album that would have fans saying "Leave Britney alone" for years until it became appreciated. Producers Danja and Bloodshy and Avant oversaw most of the production on the record. Blackout is an obvious curveball in Britney's career, but it is also weird when taken into consideration what the premise of the album was at the time of conception. The album was not meant to be a personal effort, and in some ways it's not. She specifically told the producers and songwriters on the album that she did not want the content to reflect anything going on in her personal life, and the sex and party jams certainly followed that directory. However, Blackout is also filled with some of the most direct and honest songs of her career. When the album opens, you are instantly greeted with the tagline that has been integrated into her career, a signal of arrival. The song attached to this is called Gimme More, and at this point was darker and murkier than anything Britney had ever done. It was a true reinvention. The lyrics generally are seen as an ode to sex, but they clearly tie into the media's obsession with Britney's personal life during that time. The need for more of a story, more attention, and more of a headline. The visuals for this video are quite odd for a Britney video, and just features her twirling and dancing around the pole. She allegedly sabotaged the original plot for the video. In 2014, Michael Skye, Britney's makeup artist on the video shoot, would go on to say, "She had just shaved her head and was getting nothing but bad press. She sabotaged the director by refusing to perform and follow the script," Skye said. So what we got was her dancing on a stripper pole with her friends. It was an honest and playful performance during a very rough time, and I am proud of how gorgeous she was. There has been a lot of speculation on the initial plot of the video, one being fairly dark and morbid. There was a photo of her strutting down the street in funeral attire with a veil. It's alleged that the original video was supposed to have the Blackout Britney visiting the old Britney in the casket. However, this has never been confirmed. If true, it's clear she wanted to send a direct message to the public. It wouldn't be the first time Britney's videos have had sad plots. Her label famously had the tragic ending of Every Time Revised. Then you have a video like Lucky, which tells the classic tale of Hollywood figures feeling unfulfilled by their riches. While it made perfect sense for those videos to be a bit more friendly with plots because she was still emboldened in a perfect image, on Blackout it doesn't make much sense to clean it up, due to the fact that it's the riskiest Britney has ever gotten. But maybe she and her team decided it was a bit too risky, or Britney was just going through too much at the time to be bothered to put tons of effort into filming videos. Whether the funeral music video exists or not, it is clear that there was more to the video as more footage has circulated throughout the years. If Gimme More serves as a more vague interpretation of her life and relationship with the public and media, then Piece of Me is on the opposite side of the spectrum. It is laced with shots at the media, with lyrics that ooze rap sensibilities, but with uproars of Robin in the chorus and driving electro-pop production. It pushed Britney further into a bit more of an inventive lane sonically. Her voice is processed and digitally altered various times throughout the album, but Piece of Me is the pinnacle of that technique. Her voice, along with multi-tracked vocals, meld into the production, with a very certain distinction used on the Piece of Me phrase, with a group of robotized voices. As accessible as Britney was during this time in the media, it still suggests that we still don't know the real Britney. The dubstep-centered Freak Show follows a similar thematic thread as Gimme More. There are many songs about love and sex on this record. Well, actually, the majority of the songs are about love and sex. A song like Radar can easily be tied into Britney's then new divorcee status at that time, while the music video pays homage to Madonna's Take a Bow, albeit with a much happier ending than the Take a Bow video. Radar ends with Britney finding a new love, while Take a Bow ends with a relationship ultimately not working out. Break the Ice lives in the home that Toxic built. It's a crunk electro track with a choir and synths, and a music video that arguably exemplifies the best storytelling in any music video she's ever released. It's not exactly as flashy as your typical Britney Spears video, but it is just as engaging, with cryptic and mysterious messages that kind of leaves us wondering, what was she trying to say? And what exactly would the Blackout era video verse had been if Britney wasn't going through such a tumultuous period at this time? The video has an animated Britney wearing a tight black bodysuit and thigh-high boots. As a superhero, Britney is surrounded by men and monsters in suits, maybe signifying the industry. She eventually battles them off and finds herself getting into a laboratory. Inside the laboratory is a collection of Britney clones and fluids. She then kisses the villain and finds out he's a robot as well, thus destroying him, likely symbolic of her love life. She then blows up a building and is declared a victorious figure. Other songs on the record like Heaven on Earth see Britney at her most Euro disco, with a melody sounds like it was engineered for mass appeal and a universal theme. While the tracklist overflows with sex and partying, only one song on the album directly discusses love lost, and that is the closing track, Why Should I Be Sad? It is a very obvious dig, allegedly aimed at her then recent ex-husband. It's a standalone kiss-off song, and one of her most personal, with guest vocals from Pharrell basically acting as her conscience on the song, demanding her to leave the circumstance. It's oddly personal and sad, but wrapped in very colorful traditional Pharrell production. Even some songs that didn't make the standard edition like Crunk Infused Get Back sounds like it was primed to be a major hit. In fact, every single song on the record does. The record utilizes Britney's strength as a singles artist to form a strong cohesive collection of songs. The artwork is as brooding as the sound of the music. Britney in a pink fedora, black wig, standing amongst the camera head on. In some pictures, she comparatively calls upon Madonna, particularly in the photo where she's dressed up as a Catholic girl, sitting in a priest's lap. I find it a bit amusing that her disastrous 2013 album, where she allegedly didn't even sing the songs on the record, was marketed as her most personal album, but just ended up being an empty vessel of trashy EDM pop songs. while her album where she specifically stated that she wanted songs that wouldn't mirror her personal life is arguably her most personal album to date. No Britney album has ever been so direct, not only with some of the music, but also the artwork and videos. When considering all of Britney Spears' albums, songs, and videos, Blackout is as personal as Britney Spears will get on record, based on what she supplied us with thus far. And that's not at all a bad feat, because Britney Spears the artist has always conflicted with Britney Spears the person. We now know that Britney didn't have the fairy tale life, struggled a lot into teendom and adulthood, yet she was pre-packaged as America's sweetheart, and when she broke away from that, she was still expected to be all around perfect. But Blackout effectively broke that expectation. It is an album that is as dark, messy, and self-assured as Britney Spears the artist will allow. Even though her life has been much darker, the album retains a mix of escapism and confrontation. Now the story goes, Blackout was initially met with a bit more mixed reception, and then ultimately as time would tell it would start to garner widespread praise for its influence and thoroughness. And it pretty much set the stage for mid-thousands and early 2010s pop, and the club music revival. Lady Gaga's The Fame, released in 2008, is an obvious graduate from the school of Blackout. Blackout's influence would also seep into more electro dance cuts of artists like Rihanna, Beyonce, and Kesha. Notably, Beyonce and Gaga performed Telephone together, a song very reminiscent of Blackout's sound, because it was initially intended for Britney on her Circus album, which is also a product of Blackout. It's feasible that Britney also influenced her biggest idols Madonna and Janet with the sound of Blackout being such a juggernaut. Janet's late 2007 single Feedback sounds a lot like a Blackout cut, whereas on the other side of the fence, Madonna enlisted some of Blackout's producers for her 2008 album Hard Candy. Meanwhile, acts like Charli XCX and Kim Petras continue to state Blackout as a champion influence over their music. Blackout is an album that was not supposed to be good when taking into account all of what was going on in Britney's life during that time. It didn't perform as well commercially as her previous records had, but it remains her boldest and most inventive album to date. It's as off-center as mainstream pop in 2007 would allow. It is her sole album to join the archives of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in many ways seems like the definitive statement she wanted to make with her unreleased Ghost album Original Doll. Blackout was a groundbreaker for Britney, completely shredding her previous image. The crowd said "Gimme More," and well, she gave it.